What's up again, everybody? We are halfway through a skirmish season, and I thought that was the perfect time. Right now is the perfect time for us to go through a couple of heroes that have been charging onto the scene, we'll put it that way, that have been bursting forward and showing a lot of potential, climbing up the ranks, if you will. These, in my opinion, are 5 heroes in the Blitz meta that are really making waves, and you could consider dark horse candidates for top 8ing and then possibly even winning tournaments. And we're going to start with the old faithful, and I feel like he doesn't just get the recognition he deserves every skirmish season, and that's Rhino. Rhino, guys, look, Rhino is legit. And quite frankly, Rhino has always been legit, particularly in this format, which is faster, less health, easier to combo your opponent out. He's always been incredibly good in Blitz because you can get so much more value out of stealing your opponent's hand and hand manipulation with just the Intimidate keyword and trigger, that you can just literally OTK people in this format. And in a format like Classic Constructed, where people can take more damage, they can feel a little bit more comfortable with awkward hands over the course of a longer game, that's not as true as it is in this format, where I think Rhino just really shines. He's always been really, really good, and I've consistently been seeing at the skirmish events that I've watched or that I've been to, that he can just go toe-to-toe if he high rolls in certain ways. And not to say that he has to high roll, because if you do play a longer game and your opponent doesn't sort of high roll themselves, you can just pick apart their defenses. You can come in with like your Blood Rush Bellow turns and absolutely blow them out, but you could even just do it without Blood Rush Bellow, combining like a variety of different Intimidate cards and effects to really just drive home some big attack, or multiple big attacks if you choose to roll Scab Skins. But either way, this guy is still good, he's still legit, and you should consider picking him up if you're wanting to have some fun, because you can just get there with Rhino, like you kind of always have been able to do since the dawn of Blitz. Next up on our list is Lexi, and there's a lot of people that are picking up Lexi and specifically playing in Blitz the no fuse version of Lexi, wherein you basically just seek to play a bunch of 0 cost arrows that you can give go again with Voltaire. You could play like things that you can give +1 and then get go again, like Bolt and Shot, for example. But the goal is to just count to 20 very quickly and provide some very scary on-hit effects in the process that could threaten your Oldhams, for example, that kind of want to overblock, things like that. Basically, it just counts to 20. If you want to know more about the deck archetype, by the way, I actually have a video with Jake Osdemore, who picked up a win in ProQuest season with Lexi in a 61 player ProQuest tournament, which is like a month ago or maybe a month and a half ago. If you want to see that video, we broke down the entire deck for Classic Constructed, and there's a lot of players that are tooling that for Blitz here and seeing top 8 success, because again, your goal is to just count to 20, and you can do that with a lot of cards that just push 4 damage and have really solid breakpoints, and provide go again on the card or get go again with your bow. And because of that power level of being able to do that, you can go toe to toe with certain decks, again, like Viserai, for example. Viserai is looking to combo OTK in a couple of turns. Lexi can actually provide lethal in like 2 turns as well, and so it becomes this race versus race scenario. If there's a lot of like Viserai or Kasai, there's a lot of things that you're asking them to do in those 2 turns, and they have to either decide, okay, am I just going to kill you, or do I need to actually commit cards from hand? And if you can pull cards from hand out of those really those big 2 matchups, Kasai's and more importantly Viserai's, then their explosive turns are far less explosive. And if they decide that they're not going to commit cards from hand, then you can threaten them at the end of like a long combat chain with a very powerful on-hit effect that scares them or prevents them from doing really big stuff. And so Lexi has been finding success and is definitely a dark horse that you should consider going into. A little bit fragile in the sense that, like all rangers, you need to be able to load the bow, you need to have multiple cards in hand so that you can push all that damage, because you have to go through the hoops of putting it in arsenal and then firing it. But seeing success, and one that I think could pick you up some serious wins, especially if your opponents don't know what to play around. This one, tried and true Dorinthia. She's always good in Blitz. Look, I ordered it this way because I said this with Rhino, and it rings true with Dorinthia. Dorinthia has always been good in Blitz because it's so uncomfortable to play against, not even just for new players. Even if you're just like a consistent, competitive Blitz player, let's just put that out there, that's you. You can still just look at Dorinthia and go, well, crap, they could have like 4 different cards in hand that kill me here, and I have to decide which line to play against. It's just really tough. And again, I said this in the Blitz tier list video that I made. Dorinthia is very much a hero like Kano in this format. Kano asks you to overcommit so that you can, as Kano player, come over the top with a variety of effects at instant speed. Dorinthia does the exact same thing, but for blocking purposes, and comes over the top with attack reactions. And so, to me, and I didn't realize this until like I started thinking about it at the beginning of this Blitz skirmish season, those 2 heroes to me are like right here as far as like what they want to do. They want to force players to overcommit in different ways, or they want to ask players to commit in different ways so that they can come over the top and do tricky things. And Dorinthia is really good at it. She's really good at it. And if you only have to count to 20, well, it's very easy to do so with some of these powerful attack reactions, and only going to get better perhaps based on the classic battles starter sets that are going to be released, the dual decks. It's the same thing. I should even say this for Rhino. It's the same thing for Rhino. Both of those heroes have very interesting positions going forward because they could see a definite spike in competitive play, both here in Blitz, but also in Classic Constructed, based on what's in those dual decks. It should be very interesting. Speaking of interesting, we have another wizard, and this is a wizard that I loved from the moment she was released, and I've continued to like, but here's the problem. I thought she'd be less impactful as far as like giving a frostbite, or like playing a card from your arsenal that has to be a blue strip. I thought she'd be less impactful, but I'm being proven wrong, and I'm so happy that I am, because it's cool to see that she's actually like top 8ing and picking up wins at skirmishes with just the power of wizard combined with the disruption of ice. And it's like paying off in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people that are playing a pure, more of the wizard side of things, like a pure wizard list with all of the wizard cards. But there's also people dabbling in the hybrid version where they're playing like E-Strikes. Some people play Command and Conquer. Fire Breathing was a funny tech card that I see people play in Icelander decks, basically allowing you to like play Fire Breathing, and when they say no blocks or whatever, they just dump like 4 blues. Like play Fire Breathing from Arsenal, dump 4 blues, and your opponent's like, oh, I died, I just dead, whoops. And so it's funny to see that both versions of the deck that I kind of theorized could exist are actually seeing play and are actually doing pretty well. Again, this picked up a win. It picked up a 2nd place finish at a skirmish, and I would imagine it's gotten a variety of other top 8s as well, from what I've heard and from what I've kept my ear to the ground as far as skirmish results go. And Icelander is really kind of coming to her own, which is pretty fun. It's one of those decks too that I looked at and I was like, okay, you can play like Stir Forked. That's like your big finishing move, but is there anything else? Like, you can play Wildfire, but it doesn't really work very well because you have to like combine Wildfire with like a Stir the Aether Winds and then like snapbacks from hand. It doesn't really make a ton of sense, and so I was kind of down on it in that respect. But guys, Stir Forked is just really good. That's all I can say about it. Stir Forked is just really good, so play Stir Forked in all your decks. As Icelander, period, end of story. Just run the blue Stir, put that in the arsenal, and then you can Stir Forked on your opponent's turn, or you can just red Stir Forked on your turn. Boom. Problem solved. And the final hero is perhaps the one that has made the most waves and I've seen the most coverage for, and it's something I plan to cover too because I have a deck already built, but I haven't gotten to make the video for it, and that's Dash. Boost Dash is legit. Boost Dash is a thing. Why is Boost Dash a thing? Well, I mentioned this thing about counting to 20, and Boost Dash can do that. She can count to 20 in like a variety of methods. Namely, she's just going to punch you in the face with a lot of big things, and that's what she does. This is the version of Prism that Prism wishes Prism could be in Blitz. Does that make sense? Did I spell that out correctly? This is Prism without being able to stop what Prism wants to do. That's essentially what this is. The numbers are slightly less, but essentially you're playing Herald Prism if you play this version of Dash. And it's funny because it all centers around bringing in Teklo Pounder as your first item, and then just Teklo Poundering over the course of 3 turns and winning the game. Look, I didn't believe in Teklo Pounder as far as it just being numbers on like stats on extra attacks, and attacks are already decent, so why do you need extra stats? And I was wrong, because in Blitz you only have 15 to 20 life. And I say 15 life because I played Kano into this and it felt horrible. It felt so bad, and it felt so bad because they were like, all right, cool, yeah, you can burn me a little bit with that, that's fine. I'm gonna go 6 and then 6 and then 5 and then 4 and then you're dead. And it just doesn't go well if Dash is big in the format for Kano or for Iceland. It just does not go well because they also run resources. Like, there's a lot of decent resource cards in the deck, so if they had to pitch, they could. And like, they already have like Arcane Barrier equipment, so they don't have to like sub it out. It just feels really bad into Kano, or I should say Kano into it, and it feels good into just about everything else except Oldhim. And so this is not a hero that you would want to necessarily pick up if you're playing against a bunch of Guardians, because it just can get fatigued over time, and you kind of have to line up certain turns, like big maximum velocity turns. If you're playing into Oldhim, maybe tweak the deck for you know, some of those big payoff cards with like Overblast and max velocity. But man, if you're playing into a bunch of Viscerize, you just say, hey, how's it going? We're going to race. This game will be over in 2 turns. It's going to be like Kano. And then we'll see who comes out on top, because you can basically start with +2 on whatever you want, and then everything boosts, and then everything attacks for like 6. And then your opponent has to go, ooh, am I just dead on turn 2? And the answer is probably yes. So Dash has been making waves, doing very well in the format, and I think you should definitely give it a whirl. All of these heroes, heck, all of these heroes are doing fantastically well, some more than others. I do want to point that out. No, I don't say like all of these are like now tier 1, but I just want to point out that all of these heroes are totally viable, can get you top 8s, and have proven that by getting people top 8s, and in some cases even full tournament wins. So if you want to pick up a new hero for the back half of the skirmish season, I highly recommend picking up any of these. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, look, we're trying to cruise towards that 9K. Look, you can just press a button and it makes a number change to a higher number, which is pretty cool. So if you want to press the button because you enjoyed this content, I'd be very appreciative. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.